The first thing she noticed was the silence. Not the kind of silence that lives in libraries or quiet country roads, but the unnerving, unfamiliar kind that greets you when you wake up somewhere you don't belong. The second thing was the sunlight, too bright, too honest, as it pushed through the cream-colored curtains and scattered itself across the unfamiliar bed she was lying in. Her head pounded with every beat of her heart, and her mouth tasted like regret. For a moment, she couldn't remember her own name. Her hands gripped the sheets as if they could anchor her to something real. Panic, fast and cold, rose through her chest. She sat up abruptly. The room was clean. Too clean. A soft cotton blanket, a warm scent of detergent, a framed photo of a man and a little boy on the nightstand. Her shoes, placed neatly by the door. Her phone, charging beside the bed. And a note. Folded. Written in careful, almost nervous handwriting, "You're safe. You were alone and barely conscious outside. I brought you here to rest. There's coffee in the kitchen. Nate." Before we continue this powerful and emotional story, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Echoes of Life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet heroes of this world, your support allows us to keep telling the stories that matter. Her name was Clara Benson. She was 29, but she often felt 90. Emotionally weathered. Worn down from heartbreaks no one saw and battles no one clapped for. She had grown up believing in the good in people, believing that love would always find its way home. But life, relentless, messy life, had chipped away at those beliefs. 2 years ago, her fiancé left her after a late-term miscarriage. He said he couldn't do this anymore, as if grief were a choice she'd made. After that, the world changed. She changed. Nights became a blur of music, alcohol, and trying too hard to laugh. Mornings were spent nursing hangovers and hiding from herself. Clara wasn't an addict, but she was deeply lost. And sometimes, when people get lost, they drink just to forget they've forgotten who they are. The night before, she had been at a party. A birthday celebration for her friend Mel, filled with familiar faces and fake smiles. She remembered drinking too much, too fast. Remembered trying to dance like she used to, before life made her stiff with self-doubt. The rest was a haze. She had blacked out. And that terrified her. Now she was here, in a stranger's house. Slowly, barefoot and cautious, she stepped into the hallway. There were toys scattered near the stairs. The distant hum of a cartoon playing somewhere below. The smell of toast and coffee. She descended like someone emerging from a dream. Each creak of the wooden steps sounded like a question she didn't know how to answer. In the kitchen, she saw him. The man from the photo. Mid-30s. Worn jeans, black t-shirt, strong arms that looked like they carried more than just groceries. He was pouring cereal into a bowl. Next to him was a little boy, 4 or 5 maybe, with brown curls and a gummy smile that made something ache in her chest. The man looked up and smiled, not with surprise but with calm. "You're awake," he said gently. "There's coffee. You look like you need it." She did. God, she did. Over coffee and silence, he told her what happened. How he'd been picking up his son from his sister's place when he saw Clara collapsed on the pavement outside the party. People were walking around her. Some even stepping over her. Nate hadn't asked questions. He just lifted her into his car, took her home, and made sure she was safe. "Didn't seem right to leave you there," he said. Simple. Kind. No expectations. No judgment. Clara didn't know how to thank him. She offered to leave immediately, but he insisted she eat something first. She did, quietly, sitting at the edge of the kitchen table while Caleb, the little boy, chattered about dinosaurs and waffles. She left that day with a grateful heart and a deep, simmering shame. But something about that morning stayed with her. And so she returned. The next weekend. She brought Nate a pie. Brought Caleb a coloring book. She told herself it was to say thank you properly. Then she came again. And again. Over time, their connection deepened, not as lovers, but as two broken people slowly rediscovering hope in the ordinary. Nate was a single father. His wife had died during childbirth. One second they were picking baby names, the next he was holding a son and burying a wife. His grief had been quiet but all-consuming. He poured his soul into raising Caleb, working double shifts, skipping sleep, learning lullabies. He didn't date. He didn't go out. He just survived. Until Clara. At first, their conversation stayed surface level. Work. The weather. Caleb's fascination with T-Rexes. But little by little, they opened up. Clara told him about the miscarriage. About the man who left. About how sometimes she still placed her hand on her stomach and felt a ghost. Nate listened. He never interrupted. He never tried to fix her. He just made space. One Sunday morning, while folding laundry together, Clara laughed at something Caleb said. It was soft, real, like the laugh of someone who forgot she was broken. Nate looked at her, really looked at her. She noticed it. But neither of them said a word. The air between them had shifted. But healing is never a straight line. One Friday night, Clara attended a party. Old friends. Loud music. Someone handed her a drink, and then another. She told herself she was fine. That she was stronger now. But 3 hours later, she was crying in the back of a rideshare car, mascara streaking down her cheeks, whispering Nate's address to the driver like it was the only place that made sense. She didn't knock. She just sat on the porch, hugging her knees in the cold. The door opened quietly. Nate stood there in a hoodie and sweatpants, his eyes soft with concern. I had a feeling, he said. He didn't lecture her. Didn't ask questions. He just wrapped a blanket around her and sat with her on the porch until the shaking stopped. That night, Clara sobbed in his arms. I don't know how to be okay, she whispered. You don't need to be okay, he murmured back. You just need to let yourself be seen. From that night forward, something between them changed. She started attending therapy again. Signed up for painting classes. Volunteered at a local youth shelter. Caleb grew more attached to her, calling her Chloe and demanding bedtime stories only she could tell. She painted a canvas of a tree with 3 hearts hanging from its branches and gave it to Nate on his birthday. One evening, they sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon. Caleb was asleep. Fireflies flickered in the distance. Nate reached for her hand and whispered, "You brought life back into this house." And she replied, "You brought me back to myself." Months passed. The healing continued. Clara moved in, not out of romance, but out of belonging. She became Caleb's second bedtime hug. Nate's quiet partner. They still had no labels. No declarations. Just love, honest, imperfect, and true. If this story reached somewhere deep inside your soul, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes of Life. These stories are more than just words, they're mirrors of what it means to be human. Your support helps us keep echoing these truths across the world. Speech balloon. Before we end, here's our special request. Tell us in the comments, have you ever been saved by someone who expected nothing in return?